A 33-year-old Utah woman named Kouri Richins has been sitting in jail for the last year waiting for her preliminary hearing, but recently, you know what has been hitting the fan. Kouri is charged with killing her husband, Eric Richins, in March of 2022 by poisoning him with a beverage, but it wasn't her first attempt. She was in debt up to her eyeballs and was just about to close on a large unfinished mansion, notably having a party the next day after Eric died in said mansion. And she was arrested and charged in May of 2023. She was charged with murder and attempted murder and was also charged with forgery and mortgage and insurance fraud. But now Kouri's attorney and defense team backed out. There's accusations against the prosecution regarding damning recordings. And turns out Kouri had what reports call a secret paramour, aka she was getting it on with the handyman right before her husband was poisoned and killed. And now it's all coming out. But Kouri also finally breaks her silence. I'm Linda with It's a Crime, so now let's get into it. Kouri Richins was set to have her preliminary hearing on June 18th of 2024, but there was a recent hearing and that's when all hell breaks loose. From May to December of 2023, authorities recorded jail calls between Kouri and her lawyers without getting their permission. And apparently prosecutors listened to some of these calls. When one of the defense lawyers found out and asked the prosecutors about it, they initially denied knowing anything. But then lead prosecutor Brad Bloodworth explained that the calls were recorded because the defense attorney had refused to use a phone app that was designed to protect attorney-client calls and said that the lawyer knew about it. He insisted that the prosecutors hadn't listened to the calls, and when the defense team kept pushing the issue, Bloodworth argued that by not using the app, the lawyer had essentially agreed to recordings and pointed out that this had been going on for 6 months. He also mentioned that the recorded calls had been shared with the defense during that time. Now, Kouri's lawyer, Sky Lazaro, filed a motion asking the judge to disqualify the prosecution from the case, and in particular, prosecutor Brad Bloodworth. The reason, quote, his involvement in severe violations that compromise the integrity of adversarial fairness. And the defense says it never consented and Kouri never waived her attorney-client privilege. The filing also mentions a situation that happened on March 26th of 2024 when Kouri met with her lawyer in jail. Kouri told the sergeant that she needed a paper pass to give documents to her lawyer, but the sergeant questioned it. And Sky, Kouri's attorney, wrote in the filing that she repeatedly told the sergeant he could not read or seize the documents, but he insisted on reading them anyway. Now, when the sergeant didn't know what to do or how to proceed, Sky says that he left and came back with his captain and Brad Bloodworth. And the tense confrontation, it was called, or said, continued until Bloodworth finally let Sky take the notebook. She claimed that this incident violated Kouri's Sixth Amendment rights, and along with the recorded calls, showed that the prosecution should be removed from the case. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Then Sky filed a motion to withdraw from the case due to irreconcilable and non-waivable situation. And Kouri talked about it and said, my defense team has been forced to withdraw from my case. Represented or not, we all know and should understand there's only so much I can say. But what I will say is this withdrawal was not my choice, and it was not a personal choice of any counsel on my defense team. Kouri goes on to say, although I am extremely disappointed where we're at right now in this case, I'm anxious. I'm anxious to prove my innocence. I'm anxious to get to trial. In one of her statements, Kouri accused prosecutors of doing anything they can to prolong this process and hide their corruption. She says, I will not play into the prosecution's unconstitutional behavior anymore. Now, let's talk about Kouri's handyman. Kouri was having an affair with a 41-year-old man named Robert, and the affair started before Eric was killed and continued for months after. And he was hired as a handyman to work on the homes that Kouri was renovating, and Kouri was a realtor and owned a real estate company. They had a text exchange in February of 2022, just weeks before her husband Eric died or was killed. She said, "If I was divorced right now and asked you to marry me tomorrow, you would?" She also said, "I just want to lay on the couch and cuddle you, watch a murder documentary and snuggle." 2 weeks later, she texted her lover and said, "Life is going to be different, I promise." And next thing you know, on March 3rd, the night that Eric was poisoned, she texted her lover a photo of two people kissing that was captioned, "Love you." And Kouri had planned an extravagant trip to St. Martin in the Caribbean a month later in April for a $4,200 five-night getaway to Secrets Resort and Spa. And it's not clear if they actually went on that trip or not, but she booked it months before Eric's death in December. And 10 days after she booked the trip, she was wrapping Christmas gifts with a friend and talked about feeling stuck in her marriage, and she just didn't see a way out. She said, "In many ways, it would be better if Eric Richins was dead." And the next day, she texted her boyfriend saying, "I'm in love with a man that's not my husband, and I want to, but I can't break up my family. It's having your cake and eating it too. I do just want to love you. I do love you." And he replies with, "I thought you were getting a divorce." A month after that, in January of 2022, she consulted with a divorce lawyer, but apparently was disappointed that she would be entitled to only half. She wanted it all. And Kouri was also in a ton of debt, owing lenders more than $1.8 million. And she then acquired illicit drugs and applied for $100,000 life insurance on Eric. And in fact, according to prosecutors, she purchased 4 different life insurance policies in the past, which totaled over $1.9 million. And in her prior hearing, Eric's sister actually took to the stand and pled with the judge to please not let Kouri out because she talked about insurance and being taken out on her children, which was very worrisome.
Before the funeral, Kouri opened a bank account and asked everyone that was grieving to send her money instead of sending the family cards and flowers. It was not even 2 weeks after Eric's passing that we were told she had taken down all but one photo of my brother and removed all his clothing from the house. Kouri put together a golf tournament in Eric's name 2 months after his death on what would have been his 40th birthday and told his family, all of us, that we were not allowed to attend. Since Eric's death, it has come to our attention that Kouri took out multiple life insurance policies on Eric without his knowledge. It appears that she forged his signature on various documents, assigned herself as Eric's durable power of attorney, inappropriately diverted money from his business to herself, and assigned herself as beneficiary of Eric's portion of our mother's retirement account. I should also not forget to mention the multiple life insurances she has taken out on the boys. Her most recent business venture was authoring a children's book about how to help grieving children cope with the loss of the death of a parent. In this book, she had the audacity to use the boys' real names and even use their last family portrait. Her behavior gives me great concern, as she has exploited the boys for money and will likely do so again. In addition, Kouri has weaponized Eric's children, manipulating my dad to do or not do things by threatening to cut him out of their lives if he did not capitulate to her demands. She similarly deprived the boys of contact with myself, my sister, and her daughters, unless we agreed to give her the money in Eric's trust. Money that Eric wanted to go to his 3 children. As if that were not enough, I have been told that Kouri started telling their 3 little boys that none of Eric's family or friends loved them. She apparently told them none of us cared for them or wanted to be around them, even though that is the exact opposite of what was happening. We all want nothing more than to be there for those 3 little boys, my nephews, yet Kouri has made sure to cut us out of every aspect of their lives. This is all just a brief summary and the start of what our family has been through over the last year.
So Kouri made her first alleged attempt to kill Eric on Valentine's Day by giving him a poisoned sandwich, which was left with a note on the seat of Eric's truck for lunch. Eric got violently ill, and he said that he thought his wife was trying to poison him. He told a friend, quote, "I think I almost died. I think my wife tried to poison me, and not even a month later, Eric would be dead." And that Valentine's Day, he drank a bottle of Benadryl and gave himself an EpiPen that belonged to his son. And Kouri wasn't in town after giving him said sandwich, as she had left to spend it with her Handyman Lover, and she said that she was waiting for her cabinet installer guy. And the day before that, she sent a text to him saying, I have a crazy dream. You quit your job, I divorce and come up with millions and millions. We buy Midway and you live in the guest house and rent out the huge house as a big event center. And Midway is the mansion that I mentioned earlier, which is unfinished and is a $3.26 million property that closed right after the day after Eric was killed, and she had that party. So she sends a text again to her lover 5 days after Valentine's Day saying, "I want you today, every day, not just sexually, but physically, mentally, every day when I wake up. I do want a future together. I do want you. Figure life out together. If he could just go away and you could just be here, life would be perfect. Love you." Eric was killed in March, and afterwards she met up with her boyfriend and asked if he'd kill anyone while serving in the military in Iraq, and he said yes, and Kouri asked how it felt. And their forbidden love ended 8 months after Eric's death, and the handyman was living in one of her condos, but apparently she kicked him out for allegedly using meth. And he wound up homeless and living out of his Ford F-150 pickup, and it's a truck that was said to be given to him by Kouri. Reports said that police found him sleeping in his truck on the side of a street with the engine running, and they found a case of beer with several of them open and gave him a citation. And since then, according to reports, he's been in trouble with the police and arrested for trespassing. He stole a $14,000 trailer and a scissor lift that he rented from Home Depot, but failed to return it. And the lover told authorities that Kouri was his girlfriend, and he was given immunity. And Kouri now has new representation, Wendy Lewis, who has a law degree from the University of Utah and extensive experience in both criminal and civil cases. She's successfully defended clients in high-stake cases, including first-degree murder and death penalty cases. And Catherine Nestor is a graduate of the University of Texas School of Law, has a background in defending federal and state crimes with experience managing significant cases such as capital murder and high-profile fraud cases. And hopefully soon, Kouri will be heading to her preliminary, although she declared war, saying, "I've been silent for a year, locked away from my kids, my family, my life, living with the media, telling the world who they think I am, what they think I've done, or how they think I've lived. And it's time to start speaking up. You took an innocent mom away from her babies, and this means war." Now, notable, her timeline is very interesting the night that Eric was killed. You're going to have to check that out. I'll have that below. And check out a damning letter written by Kouri, but she claims it was a fictional story she was writing, and I'll have that right here. And check out her mom's potential involvement and how that apple doesn't seem to fall far from the tree. I'll have that right there. I'll have the full playlist below. See you in the next video.